Hi, I gather that I can't believe it. Jaya told me there would be nobody listening to this, so I was sure it was a good idea to agree to do it. But I think that's probably the last time I'll take Jaya's word for anything. I should know better by now. Well, thanks very much for joining me on this and putting up with what I hope will be a thoroughly fascinating and entertaining. Well, actually, it's probably a bit of a lie, but I'm going to tell you a bit about Expo North and where we've reached just now. Um, I've just seen a couple of messages flying there. Can everybody hear okay? Great. Looks like it anyway. Yeah. What I'd like to do is just briefly run over a little bit about what Expo North's actually about and how it came about, and then tell you a little bit about where we've reached in the preparations for 2017's edition and who it might be useful for, and really ask you if you can help us by getting the message out as widely as possible. Take part if you can, but just share the information as widely as possible. Expo North was originally started as a music event under a slightly different title, Go North. It was set up because when we started working on the music project, we found we were struggling to get access to the big industry events, and we're wondering, well, what could we do to make this easier? And the answer was, well, why don't we just host our own? And it seemed like a really good idea at the time. Little did we realise just how much work that was going to be and what it would take to create events, certainly of the scale that it's now become. But after the initial shock of finding out how difficult it was, we've been really lucky in being able to build it in size and scope, and also with the kind of partners that we're able to engage with each year. We took a bit of a risk when we decided to make the change and move it over to a cross-sectoral event. So yes, it's across creative industries, but it's all kinds of creative activity that's there. And there's also scope for people who are not actually directly involved in creative industries to take part in this as well, because a lot of the topics that we cover and the areas of work have a relevance to much more than the creative sector. We started off, as I said, with a much smaller event. It was a few hundred people, and in 2016 we reached around the 2,000 delegate mark, coming from across the world. We were lucky that, as I said, to come from North America, from around Europe. We've had as far afield as Australia and Japan, New Zealand. We've had a couple of inquiries from Colombia, but I'm not sure that we'll be following that one up quite yet anyway. It seemed to involve an awful lot more than I was willing to work with on that. Anyway, the people who attend range from the major multinationals in the world like Sony, Universal, Warner's, right through to micro businesses based in Skye and Shetland, around the Highlands and Islands. So there really is a huge spread of activity there. The reason that we bring them to everybody together is, one, is to demonstrate just what the businesses in this area are capable of doing, because although they're small, they have to find partners of varying sizes and people that they can work with, and you do need to be able to hook in with these major multinationals and much larger players. But if you're based in Orkney or Gairloch, it can be very hard to see how you're going to access those companies. And Expo North provides an opportunity for you to do that as close to being on your own doorstep as we can manage. From the other perspective, these buyers are coming in either participating in panels or just coming over and taking part in the event because they now see Expo North as the opportunity to find an access point into an area that they find really interesting and finding really exciting, both in terms of the fact it's the Highlands and Islands, but also in the kinds of businesses that we're working with. But also they're seeing the Highlands as being an entry point into the UK and into Europe, although that might become a challenge in the next few years, but we'll see how that goes. I'm going to attempt to put on a PowerPoint here just to pick up a couple of slides that hopefully can send you to. This first one, I think, is worth having a look at yourselves afterwards. We have a document online called How We Can Help You, which is in the creative industry section on the intranet, which Jaya has been kindly helping us with and her team. So we're starting to get more information in there. But in that document, there's an outline of this diagram showing how we actually work, how the pieces fit together, the networks, and and the event itself, the partnerships, how those come together. But it also gives some case studies and things which I think might be useful to you to get a better flavour of the kind of work that we're engaged in and what's going on. Failing miserably to be able to change the slide. I thought I'd move just very quickly is, although I'm saying it covers a wide variety of things, it's probably useful just to give you a slightly better indication. And this is the new definition of creative industries that the Scottish Government has given us to work with. So if you see that, have a look at that slide, you can see that it covers a wide variety of stuff there. And when you look at it with cultural education and heritage coming in, it certainly opens it up to our colleagues in strengthening communities, as well as other departments in High. It also does create some challenges then about how do you find the themes and the stuff that will work across all of these different sectors. So I think probably a useful way to give you an idea on that one would be to look at the topics that we're picking up that are going to be among the key disruptors over the next few years. So this effectively will be what we are focusing on for the next 2 or 3 XpoNorths, assuming we're still there to do them. But it's the new brand. The first one, I think, is one of the most important, is the fact that brands are going to have to move away from worrying about the product and more into looking at the user experience. And that user experience is going to be really vital to any kind of business. People are increasingly, because of the way they're consuming content, by the way they expect to be engaged with things, and also by the demand that more and more people have to engage in the production process, to have a say in what's being done, and also the fact that there's a desire to gather information and make connections themselves to actually participate more in what's going on. So that this idea of the brand having to shift its focus is going to be very important. On demand, I don't think there's many of us left that watch telly in the format of 9 o'clock on Tuesday. It's such and such a program. On demand is where everything's gone, and streaming has proven to be the most popular way of consuming digital content. It's taken over on music, it's taken over on video, it's tied with games. There really isn't much now where streaming isn't having an impact. The other part that goes in with that, though, is that the impact that streaming has in the technology is around remote participation, with mobile technology particularly adding to that. But what I would say is that for a lot of people based in our area, particularly if you're looking at where there's a building involved, so it could be the Heritage Centre Museum, or it could be a festival or something going on there, the location is probably the least accessible asset that business has, because no matter what you do, there can only ever be a certain number of people in the building at any one time, or the number of visitors that are going to come to that part of our area will be restricted by ferries or flights or transport or whatever. So we need to start looking more and more at how we make the assets available globally, but it doesn't necessarily involve people actually coming to the patch. And there's huge opportunities around that, looking at creating real immersive experiences with virtual reality, but also looking at less technologically driven solutions as well, around how we use social media, how we actually just put our own web content in, and also how we talk to people. How do we talk to our consumers? How do we incentivize them to take action? This kind of process also means that we should be looking at new ways of accessing finance, about how we network, and inevitably the issues and challenges it's going to create around skills gaps. XpoNorth, I hope everybody can read that on my screen. It's certainly kind of small, and just threw this in was a couple of quotes to give you a feel for how people are viewing the event. But what I would say is that we've had some really good results over the years. We constantly get feedback that people are still engaging with the contacts they made at the event, even from several years in the past. They're retaining those relationships and keeping on working with them. But we have lots of examples where we're seeing people signing publishing deals, signing recording deals. There's licensing of intellectual property and digital content being done across the globe with some very major players as well. We're also seeing new commissions coming in from other countries into TV production companies here. So there is a wide range of benefits coming directly to the businesses in the patch, and that doesn't take into account the benefits there are on finding out firsthand exactly how the creative industries are moving, what are the current trends, what are the new business models, how do we need to be rethinking about the way that we work, and also how we find the partners in order to keep on developing that process. So this year we've finalised a big chunk of the programme. There's still a few folk who we haven't been able to get confirmed as yet because they still see June as a while off, although I don't necessarily. But to give you a flavour then of the kind of events, of panels and sessions that we're going to have over this one. For one of them, we'll be looking at innovating the model as growing opportunities for remote participation, and I mentioned that one. And on that, as well as having some local businesses, we're also going to involve the TV and film commissions from northern Canada, from northern parts of Sweden around Umeå, also from some of the more rural US states as well, so that we can see not only, and Iceland, so looking at how the Highlands and Islands does it, but looking at how other countries with similar kind of areas within their patch are working as well. We'll be looking at the power of provenance. I think this could be a really interesting session. It's again coming back to that idea of the brand and how important the story of place is, but how you still have to keep moving with the times and moving with that experience and freshening things up. So one of the speakers we'll have on that will be from the Harris Tweed Authority, but the other one will be the Chief Commercial Officer from for Europe and North America from Alessi, the Italian design company. And again, that's a really exciting one when you look at the way that company works, in that they've brought in designers who are actually architects or artists or people working in all sorts of different sectors coming in and bringing their ideas so that they keep their product line fresh, but still maintaining that design-driven activity and the quality. We'll be looking at global keynote from A&R Worldwide, one of our big US partners. And at the moment, we have 2 people in place to do that one, and we're waiting to hear which we'll get. One of them is the head of creative for Disney, and the other one is the head, so it's the global director of A&R for Warner's. So it would be great, either of them. It would be lovely to get both. I suspect we might be struggling with that, but we'll certainly have one of those 2 filling that slot. We'll be looking at what's driving modern brands, again, coming back to look at how you promote, how companies are promoting self, the way that brands are starting to look at to do, and again, it can still apply directly to the business that we're working with. But on that one, we have Dr. Martens, Red Bull, Prada. We'll also have a drinks company coming in, but we're selecting between 2 just now that are coming, and we also have the global director of sponsorship from Saatchi's coming in to chair the panel, and he'll also do a session on working with commercial partners, looking at how you can actually get more potentially out of relationships with larger brands, larger companies, where the idea of sponsorship certainly isn't around putting their logo on your posters. It's about how you actually really work with them. And again, that's coming back to the opportunities they offer, but again, how you can exploit the fact that you've built up a database there of the consumers you're working with. How do you make this picture look as big as it possibly can in order to get the most out of them? We'll also be doing a session on 21st century storytelling. So again, that's about getting over, not just, it can be stories in the sense of a film or a book, but it's also the story in the sense of what is the company's, what's driving the business, what's the meaning behind it, how does the Highlands and Islands sit in with that? It's about how you get your message across. The keynote speaker we have on that one is a chap called Michael Ruger, who is the head of Concept Lab with Ravensburger Games in Germany. So it's a really large games company that does both online and board games. But as well as he's with them now, but he was formerly the head of new media with RTL Disney. He also has worked with a range of large broadcasters and others again in new media, so a really interesting track record of stuff there, and some really exciting, I think some really interesting and exciting presentation coming from that one. We'll also look at things like innovation and funding through the crowd economy, again looking at how we tie these, how you can tie your consumers in, how you tie in the wider reach of your social media, what are the opportunities to do R&D against your latest development ideas, about the potential for how you create new products through that, how you use these audiences to help you get your product to market, and again, how you access money through them, how you can turn these into money, but certainly for the business. We'll have a fairly dull but extremely important one around predictive analytics, looking at data as creative material. Again, for that, we've got folk like Data Lab coming to do presentations on it, but we've also got some of the leading folk working in data analysis across the creative industries, again, internationally. Creating international locations in rural regions, that one I hope again will be of interest, but it's really looking very much about how we can be encouraging more film and TV production to be happening in the area, how advertising, how do we really make the place welcoming and encouraging to see more business being brought in that way. We're also going to have international media buyers session, a chance to meet them. For that, we've got Disney, ABC, Fox Broadcasting and Xbox at the moment, and we're just currently waiting to hear about Sky Atlantic as the next one on it. So again, hopefully these folk will buy when they're here, but they're also going to give a really useful take on what it is that the media companies are searching for in the current markets. What's working, what's not working, what are people looking for, what kind of money are you talking about, what would be expected of you if you're going to supply it, and what kind of deals you'd be talking about. I mean, can you retain your rights? Do you have to hand everything over? Just to get a better feel for understanding of what the current markets are like. Another session we'll be doing is looking at building the economy through creativity. And I think again, I'm quite looking forward to this one. We're going to have the director of the Icelandic Design Centre talking about how Iceland rebuilt its economy after the bank crash, pretty much dominated on their use of the creative industries. And I think Iceland's always been an exciting opportunity. When you look at it, there's a country that on the face of it is really expensive, in the middle of nowhere, smells bad, is bleak and barren, and a tiny population, and yet it's one of the coolest places on the planet. It just has an amazing ability to turn that creative activity round. So she'll be talking about that. And we also have one of the directors from Bilbao International coming in to talk about how they have regenerated the city around creativity, and how they brought in the Guggenheim and what the impact of that was, and why now it's seen as a vital design location where all the big name designers, architects and others are all saying that they want to get work put into Bilbao, because it's one of these places now that's become a recognized center for that kind of activity. So again, I think useful information coming from it. And on the film side, we've also got an interview with Michael Redford, a well-known film director, but just in case you haven't come across him, he did win an Oscar in the past for Il Postino, which is a few years old now, and he is still making films, but that's obviously one of his more successful in terms of the Oscar recognition. Just skimming through some of the other companies that I've given to get a flavour there. 13 Artists is a management and agency company. They represent Radiohead, Arctic Monkeys, artists like that. It's a huge company. So again, coming in. Atlantic, I'm sure you all know of. Amazon, we're working with just now, and we're looking at them for both their video on demand services and also around the development of apps, and how they engage with app makers and developers, and how you can work with them on it. Look and see if there's anybody else there I haven't mentioned. Oh, yeah, Fox Broadcasting, Sony, Yeah, I think we've covered pretty much all the ones there. So there's a list of others coming, but that hopefully gives you a fairly good flavour without me talking forever on it. That wasn't the slide that was meant to be there. And I thought I'd throw this in just now in case you were really bored, because that's where I'm going on holiday this year. And that always brightens my day, even if nobody else is. I'm going to get rid of this now. That's Switzerland, by the way, just near Montreux on Lake Geneva. So it'll get shot of the PowerPoint presentation. What I'll just bring up now, though, is no, I'm not going to play it, but there's a video at this site, the XpoNorth.co.uk. If you get a chance, if you can have a look at it, or go into YouTube and type in the XpoNorth trailer, either of those, you can get you'll get this short 3.5-minute trailer that gives you a flavour of what the event's about.
It's one of the best cross-creative industries festivals in the UK today, hands down.
Great seminars, great panels, workshops, the network of venues is perfect, the audiences go for it.
I don't think it could be better designed for that purpose, really, to be honest. Just a great environment for people to meet and to talk and to discuss ideas and to possibly collaborate.
There is a thriving animation hub in Scotland.
You can shoot things on your phone, but you can create a feature film at home on your computer.
Trouble follows me down dark memory lanes, trouble in tub thumping trepidated terrains.
Starting to find my way through the business side of music. What can you do for me and what can I do for you, sort of thing, without it being kind of rude or anything.
We are going to be creating our own radio station that will be running during the festival, and we'll hopefully be catching up with some of the bands and some of the delegates that will be taking part.
We're choosing to buy things less and stream things more. The internet is about access, it's not about ownership.
You can meet so many interesting people, everybody from content creators through the distributors, the money people.
I'm with Screen Age Renegade, called a multi-platform network where we work with some of the best YouTube talent, animators, vloggers, musicians, activists, nurturing them.
Whether you call it art or you're calling it an entertainment product, you really have to think about what motivates you, what's at the core of your story, why do you want to tell something, why do you want to communicate?
The fact that this is a free event is just brilliant.
I like to come to events like this and just be surprised. It's actually pretty amazing.
But at night, that's when Inverness comes alive.
There's delegates from all corners of the globe come here now to see not just the best of the bands from the Highlands and Islands, but the best of the bands from different parts of the world.
It's crazy this year. There's a lot of international bands. There's so many different sounds.
Before I even worked professionally in music, I use this as a place to meet people and network, which is nothing other than having a little chat to someone about what they do, and hopefully you've got something of interest to talk to them about, be that your band, or be that the blog you're writing, or be that the clothes you're designing, or be that the tech you're making. They all interlink. You might not go to a panel and get the answer of what's going to make you famous, but it might give you that little seed of thinking, that's how that works.
The Oculus is obviously virtual reality. It's still not available to the public, but people are really enjoying the experience. Certain things obviously we want to tweak, like UI, but overall it's been really good.
The quality of the games developers that we're seeing here is absolutely top, especially considering so many of them are still students. They're developing these games on top of their coursework, which just shows how passionate they are.
I do think it's a really important festival. I think it's good to encourage people about what is out there.
This year's XpoNorth has been brilliant. A really great event, lots of great designers, really interested audience.
And there's gigs and there's opportunities. You never know where these contacts are going to come in useful in the future, or just spark a little bit of inspiration within yourself.
Again, it just gives a feeling of what the event's like in a way that me talking about it never does justice to. The feeling of how busy it is and the people about and life and activity that goes on around it. The events then, the event itself is on the 7th and 8th of June, although there'll be some activity on the evening before the 6th. We will be launching the call for music submissions, film submissions, and writing submissions for the publishers pitching session, and that on the 25th of January, and the platforms will all be accessible through the XpoNorth site, and we're going to see about getting added to the High site as well, the links, so that we can take folk to it. So people can submit to those 3 elements in order to have either showcase themselves on the music side, or to showcase their films, or to come forward and pitch to the panel of publishers and agents. So that includes companies like Hodder Stoughton, Penguin, Random House, Canongate, plus local publishers as well, like Sandstone Press, who've been doing very well recently. On the 27th, we're going to launch the actual program itself, and so most of this information that I'll be giving you will be going out at that point, although we'll save a few names still obviously drop in over time as we're building up to June. But the 27th will be the formal announcement of the event going online and making everything available at that point. So if you're still awake, anybody want to ask any questions, or got any questions that they can test me on? Well, that probably means I've just put everybody to sleep. So that's a great.
No, Ian, you've not done that. It's Rona here. I mean, I think the lineup is, I think, it's fairly incredible. I mean, these are really world players, and I would encourage anyone to go along and have a listen to them and get an idea of what's going on, to see where the reach is. But I think the other thing that, as I've been learning more about what you're doing in the sector, is just the model, the XpoNorth model, which is, has the eyes of a lot of people and a lot of countries on it now. So there's some really interesting things done through the industry networks, which is really putting the region on the map. So I would encourage anyone, even if you can go for a couple of hours, just to go and get more of a flavour for it, appreciating that we're all pretty busy.
Well, just to throw in on that one, is the event's free. So for your clients, there is no charge for. We ask folk to register so that we've got an idea of the numbers that are in, and we can keep track of who's about and how who we're engaging with, and if there's areas that we're missing out on. But there's no charge to get involved with, because we didn't want to lose anybody because they were worried about costs, and there's travel and there's all the things to engage with in that. What I would also say is that if you have folk where the travel or accommodation or something could be an issue, please get in touch, because we can try and see if there's a way of helping with that as well. As I said, we want to make sure that we get as many people engaged with this, and often the folk who can least afford are probably the ones that most need to be at some of the events. But what I would also say is that because a lot of this stuff is focusing on marketing, how brands work, about the opportunities of bringing technology into the business, please bear in mind that some of your clients who are not necessarily creative businesses might find some of this useful as well, although it may require a little effort to show them where the links are and how it can help them when it's written up for a creative audience.
Ian, you were talking, it's Campbell Cameron here, you were talking about webinars and sharing and such, and I can see the real benefit of that, particularly now that the Highlands and Islands are getting so well connected throughout, with the new fibre and the Gigaplus Argyll project and things like that. Is there a possibility for those that maybe can't make it for the whole festival, or can make it to some, that some of these events might be put out on webinar?
We will put some of them out on webinar. We'll also be filming more of the content this year. Again, if you have a look at the site, you'll find interviews with people, and there's stuff there beyond just. Obviously, we put the video of the bands playing up because that attracts a lot of people in, because they like to see what the music is. But we do have more information than that up, more content, and we're hoping to improve on that this year and have a greater amount
Yeah, I found it superb, I have to say, to anybody that's listening that maybe hasn't been to it before. I find it quite inspirational because it gives me stories to take away around the communities as I speak to them about the possibilities and what there are there. And, you know, I've been amazed at just who's working away in a wee office or a bedroom or a lounge or a living room, you know, creating games or creating music or creating all sorts of film media. It was great. And what we did do, I know Amanda, who was helping promote this, has been very good in coming down to Oban and places like that. What we've been able to do in the last couple of years is get people up from Oban by just, you know, car sharing, you know, a wee minibus taking some folk up for a day or whatever, and it's a great way of getting folk into Inverness.
And again, apart from the fact I'll have to pay Cameron now for that, for saying all those nice things, we would definitely, if there's a problem about folk getting here or any challenge around that, as I said, please get in touch, because I wouldn't like folk to miss out just because there's challenges about transport or accommodation. So, you know, certainly if you could keep us in mind if the issue comes to your attention. The other thing is that I would say is, although there's a lot of very big players coming in terms of the buyers and things, yes, we need them for a few reasons. One is the credibility that it brings to the event. It's credibility for the Highlands and Islands. It puts us on the map that we would, you know, would have difficulty being seen on otherwise. But the other thing is that the businesses themselves that we're dealing with are actually at the level now, many of them, where they are needing to engage with that scale of player and those kind of multinational companies. The work they're doing is quite incredible, some of it. Not everybody, but there is a lot out there that's great, and certainly of an international quality. And the other thing is that the way the technology has changed, the way the prices have come down, the way that things are being accessed, the only difference between you and one of the multinationals in terms of what they actually do and how they work is actually just about the imagination to find interesting ways of delivering your message and engaging with people. The actual technology and things is available to everybody now in some shape or form. There's workarounds for pretty much everything. You're limited only by your imagination. So, you know, it's certainly this has a value and potentially to pretty much anybody, whether it's social enterprises through to the bigger businesses on your patch. Yep, it's all gone quiet now. And as I said, if there is anything that you think of you'd like to ask about, or if there's anything that I can help with, please give me a shout.
Thanks very much, Ian. That was really interesting. Thank you.
Cheers, Ian.
Yep.
Come on, Ian. That's just great. Good fortune with this year. It'll be as good as ever, I'm sure, and better than it's been even.
Well, fingers crossed. But we're on our way anyway. Thanks, Cameron.
You're welcome.